I spent most of my career in the private sector as an investor in media and telecoms assets, but also spent a very interesting period of my career as the head of the Telecoms Regulatory Authority in the United States, the Federal Communications Commission, under President Bill Clinton. So I also tend to look at these issues from a policy perspective as well. And Ingrid and Nicola asked me if I would provide a U.S. perspective to some of the issues here in Europe, particularly the digital agenda. I'm happy to do that, particularly because in the United States and Europe we're struggling with many of the same issues. The opening question here of whether the digital agenda in Europe can be implemented is very much the question that we're asking ourselves in the United States. How do we get broadband deployed as broadly as possible, ideally ubiquitously, throughout the United States? When you look at the statistics of broadband penetration, US and Europe, we're in very similar situations. Today, about a third of Americans don't have access to broadband. That's about 100 million people. And if you look at who are those people who don't have access to broadband, it breaks down very much along income distribution and geography. And in the United States, we have made a huge effort in the Obama administration to try to bridge that digital divide. Right now, we're focused on market failure areas, rural low-income areas, and what we have announced just this past year is a program to restructure our universal service funding. Historically, we've spent about $8 billion a year every year to subsidize deployment of broadband by rural, primarily wireline phone companies. That program was restructured in the last 10 years to provide money to wireless providers, and now but it was all for voice telephony. Now that's being changed to provide funding for broadband. And that's been our principal focus. So we are relatively comfortable with the deployment in most of the United States and are focused on the more distressed and rural areas, which, as I understand, that's the principal focus in the EU as well.